Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike Romali here with the off-season edition of the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for December 21st, 2020, recorded around 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It is almost Christmas here. We are just a few short days away from Christmas, so Merry early Christmas to everyone out there. Now, today, looking out across the wide shot of the Atlantic Basin, not a lot going on right now. We do have a storm system out there across portions of the Northeast and across portions of the open Atlantic. This is a resulting cold front that has come through all the way across Florida and approaching all the way down towards near the western part of Cuba at the moment, and then into the Yucatan and the Bay of Campeche. This has brought yesterday brought some severe storms to the Tampa Bay region and also towards Lakeland. And now today it is it's a pretty crisp day, but it is temperatures right now are in the low 70s. Right now, the weather station is reading a temperature of 71 degrees, so it is nice. It is nice Florida weather, that's for sure. Elsewhere across the United States, really the only action today is across the northeast United States with this cutoff low here. Might be a little bit of a clipper system bringing some showers and maybe some snow showers to the region. Otherwise, no significant problems out across there. I'll be watching for another storm system developing later in the week out across the Midwest and transitioning over out across portions of the Midwest and then towards the Northeast United States. Elsewhere across the tropics as well, again, a little bit of activity down here. Of course, nothing expected to develop anytime soon. The hurricane season is well over at this point, and we are only really closing in on about 5 months before the next hurricane season begins. We are rapidly approaching January, and with that, we get ever so closer to the next hurricane season, but we still have 5 more months, so let's take it one day at a time, shall we? But looking at what could be happening, what we're looking at here is the sea surface temperature anomaly profile. And this was updated as of yesterday, December 20th. And we can see that as of yesterday, we are still, we're kind of still holding on to this La Nina look, although it's been degraded over the past several weeks. And we'll take a look at that here in a graphical representation here in a moment. But we have definitely seen this area kind of wane a little bit in terms of the immense cooling out across there. We've had some actual westerly wind events that have kind of helped to, actually cause a little bit of downwelling. And this has kind of allowed for, some warmer temperatures, warmer anomalies rather, to kind of come out here across portions of, really across South America and then transfer all the way over out here into the Nino 3-4 region, which is roughly in this corridor right here. Now, elsewhere across the Atlantic basin, we continue to talk about how it's still fairly warm, and it is, but it's to be expected. And the main reason is because the ocean uh, because it has a higher, heat capacity, etc., among with a bunch of other things, it takes longer for the oceans to respond to the changes in the season. So this is not necessarily an indicator of what we're going to be seeing the next hurricane season by any stretch of the imagination. But if this configuration does persist in through, January, February, March, and then ending up in April, by the time we start to get, that would definitely be an alarming signal and something that we'd have to look out for. But as of right now, there's no needs, no real reason to be like, oh my God, next hurricane season could be busy. There's a lot of things that we just don't know yet. And again, a lot of that has to do with what's going to happen out here in regards to the La Nina conditions that are currently in place across the region. Now, this is something that is going to be very useful. This is Levi Cowan's sea surface temperature anomaly, and it's a graph here. This is from tropicaltidbits.com. But you can see where we've been all the way dating back to near the peak of the hurricane season. This goes back to about September 25th or so, and there's September 28th there, and then all the way out towards today, December 21st. So this goes back several months. And again, we were here very presently in this La Nina. And again, we've had kind of some waxing and waning. You'll see that it kind of peaked out here closer to about zero point 0.7 Celsius below the long term average at times. And then as time kind of went on, you'll actually see that we have dropped back off, picked back up, and now we've just kind of hung around here. Now, this is only the Nino 3-4 index, so we're roughly measuring the span right about in this general vicinity. So that's where we're looking at. But the areas further east of here have definitely warmed up within the last couple of weeks, and we've seen that. Now, today's daily contributor is about roughly about -1 degree Celsius below the long term average. So we're still definitely in a La Nina, although it's a weak to moderate La Nina. We're still in one at the moment. And where could we go from here? Well, to turn kind of to that, we're going to be looking at the statistical probabilities here from the CPC and IRI. And this is the early December. We're going to compare and contrast the early December versus mid December outlook. So we have an early December, mid December, and then we'll probably have an early January one within the next couple of weeks. So where we were for early December, obviously peaking out here at 100% for the La Nina, that's a given. But you can definitely see where we're going. This trend for La Nina continues to fall. And eventually, by April, May, and June of next year, we start to see the probabilities of a La Nina fall off below 50%. Now, this is nothing very drastic, but you'll definitely kind of see where we're ending up. Now, by the start of the hurricane season, which really we'd want to go May, June, and July, we have according to the early December probabilities, we had about a 60 or roughly about a 56, 57% chance of neutral conditions by that time, and then falling off to about 50% by July, or by really in through August and September of next year's hurricane season. Now, we contrast that to the other one. This is the mid-December outlook. Again, if we go out to April, May, and June, again, we still see that the probabilities for neutral are at about 65%. But as we go through August, September, and October, you'll notice that we start to fall off very drastically by the peak of the next year's hurricane season to about a 45% chance of just neutral conditions, followed by almost a 30% chance of El Nino conditions. Now, this definitely doesn't mean that El Nino is going to be present by that time. Again, there's still an overwhelming majority saying that, hey, we're going to be in neutral conditions, which would be supportive for next year's hurricane season. But there's definitely still some things that we don't know yet, and I think what we're going to see is that these numbers are going to change quite a bit, especially once we get into really the heart of next year. Let's say somewhere probably around March, April, and May, we'll probably see these numbers change very drastically. So I'm not really putting too much weight either way on these right now, because we have what's called a spring predictability barrier. And again, almost everyone last year thought we were heading in towards a strong El Nino event. Never happened. We ended up with a La Nina. The rest is history. So there's not really much that I'm putting into this, but it is just something to kind of look, but take it with a grain, a little bit of grain of salt here as we progress through time. Now, some other models here that we can look at. This is the CFS version 2, the climate forecast system, and we're looking here at the sea surface temperature anomalies. We'll head out to March of next year. Again, this is 3 months from now. Much of the same, that, fairly warm Atlantic here, especially in the subtropics, and some warming out here across the equatorial Pacific, and then that continues in through August and September, where we end up with a much warmer area out here. So this might be the semblance here on this particular model of an El Nino, but certainly not putting any stock in that at the moment because, again, we just have several more months. This is, 9 months from now, things are going to change. This isn't going to pan out exactly how the model says it is. And to be truthful, no one knows the answer at the moment. So point and blank, we don't know. But some of these definitely are pointing maybe towards a neutral type or maybe a weak El Nino for next year's hurricane season. But again, it's really up in the air and no one knows at this point. Now, switching gears here real quickly to United States weather, the lower 48 weather right now. Again, you can see that not much is really occurring across the continental United States, although we do have some winter weather advisories out here across the Pacific Northwest. And we also have some winter storm watches out across portions of Montana and also across portions of North Dakota as well, and Minnesota. And there's also a bunch of wind advisories out across this area, some winter weather advisories, and even some winter storm warnings out here across portions of Pennsylvania and West Virginia. But otherwise than that, not really seeing much of any concern right now. Fast forward 3 days from now, this is the SPC Day 3 categorical outlook here, again highlighting a small but noticeable risk for the potential of severe weather across portions of southeastern Texas all the way in through the western Florida panhandle. And I would suspect to see tomorrow the Day 3 outlook, which will be move up a day. I would suspect to see this marginal risk be included across portions of northern Florida and across this area, which is for the main reason that we are going to have another storm system pulling through here. This is the GFS forecast, the 12Z run valid for 1 p.m. this afternoon. Again, here is kind of some of those snow showers out across this region. Not a big event by any stretch of the imagination, but you do see that snow does hanging around there across portions of West Virginia and the higher elevations. And as such, you could see upwards of about 6 inches of snow. That's why the winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories are in effect for portions of Pennsylvania and extreme western Virginia. That is why those are in effect. Now, if we go forward here in time, this is really looking out here by 42 hours from now by 1 a.m. On Wednesday. And here's the next storm system beginning to shape up across portions of the northern United States. Really, this area of low pressure sitting over portions of really exiting over Montana and into Minnesota at this point. Behind it, you've got a fairly stout area of cold weather and snow. That's why there's winter storm warnings for portions of those areas. Now, this is why there's a marginal risk across the south. And we'll talk about the snow here in a minute, but this area of low pressure initially is going to be up there nearing Canada, and we've got a trailing cold front all the way down here. This is going to be a very strong front, and it's going to bring a lot of cold air surging southward. You can see that all this cold air makes it all the way into central Texas, even, and that's very important because that has bearing and remedy on what happens later. Now, what we'll start to see is that we could even see maybe some snow mixing in all the way from Canada, all the way southward in through parts of Alabama. Now, this is within 72 hours, so we have a little bit better of an idea today regarding what's going to happen rather than, the last couple of days. But this cold air is surging southward, and this is going to be a big polar air mass that's coming southward. So it's going to bring some very cold air behind it, and this could cause some snow even for northern Alabama and across the Midwest area. And even parts of Pennsylvania, again, 84 hours from now, could be a fairly significant snowstorm across those regions. Now, you do see what's going to happen is we're going to get cyclogenesis to occur across portions of the Appalachian Mountains out there. And what that's going to do here is, again, this big cold front's pushing southward. We do have some good dynamics setting up across portions of Florida and across portions of South Carolina as well, and Georgia. If there's enough instability return, there definitely could be some severe weather. And again, that's why the Day 3 outlook was issued for these areas. Again, it's going to be confined mainly to the coastline because that's going to be the area for highest moisture return. That is very crucial as we go forth with time. And then again, you can see that big snowstorm that does shape up, and some very cold air. If we actually look here and jump down towards somewhere, let's just say like Florida, we can see that those temperatures will come crashing down. And we could see our coldest weather across portions of Florida that we've seen all along, with temperatures in the upper 30s, mid to upper 30s across portions of central Florida. So definitely looking out for that. Long range, again, not really a fan of long range, but not really seeing much of any significant cool shots to maybe later into January. But we'll just have to see kind of how that all plays out. All right. That being said, hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon, evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley. I'll talk to you guys again some more tomorrow.